Hello, Sean here. Today we're just going to go through how to write the first part of the academic IELTS writing. I call it a report structure. So basically what happens is, in this case, you're going to get a bar chart such as this, and this is based on the IELTS book 15. So you can see here you have on the x-axis you have 5 cities. You have 3 variables, which is mocha, coffee and tea. And you can also see on the y-axis you have percentage of city residents. Okay, and the name of the chart is coffee and tea and mocha drinking habits in 5 Australian cities. And obviously in the exam you'll also get information, and then you'll also get the task as well. So the information in this particular case is the chart below shows the chart below shows the results of a survey about people's coffee, tea and mocha drinking habits in 5 Australian cities. Okay, so obviously the 5 Australian cities are Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide and Hobart. Okay, so then I'm just going to go up a little slide here, shows you the structure. So what we want to do is we want to have like an introduction, which basically paraphrases the information that's given in the card or on the card. Okay, then we want to have an overall paragraph. I prefer to have the second. So that's where I normally put these. Okay, so comment on the general trends of the chart, which we'll have a look at in a moment. And then you have the details, 2 to 3 paragraphs, basically, grouping things together, the general trends, what fits together, what's the same, what's different, and obviously include the numbers. Okay, so that's the general structure. So let's go on to the next one here. So what we got first of all is we've got the chart below shows the results of a survey about people's coffee, tea and mocha drinking habits in 5 Australian cities. So what we want to do is we want to try and use synonyms to rewrite this paragraph into our own little introductory paragraph. So I've just done a few words here just to help out. I might just get my little pointer here just to help out with. So for example, shows, similar words would be illustrates, depicts, it can be seen. We've got the results of a survey. So again, survey, you can just pick survey, which I believe is a noun. But I've sort of written here as a phrase, outcome of a questionnaire, okay, which has a similar meaning. And then habits, which can be routines, patterns, customs, inclinations, and so forth and so on, okay. So that's basically what we have to do here, is rewrite this using synonyms, and it can't be the same as the original writing or it won't count. Okay, so I'll just go on to the next slide. And this is what I came up with. And again, there are many ways of doing it. Not saying this is perfect. However, it certainly does the job. Okay, so the bar chart illustrates the outcome of a questionnaire given to residents about their coffee, tea and mocha drinking routines in 5 Australian cities. Brackets, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide and Hobart, and the units are measured in percentages. So you can see from the y-axis it's in percentages. Okay, so that's our introduction done. So okay, we're just one of the steps there. Okay, so now we want to do our overall paragraph. Okay, so we want to get the general trends and compare variables. Okay, so if we look at this particular chart here, which I think in essence is quite a simple one, but we can see that virtually all of them have the same trend. Okay, so if you can see here, coffee is drunk more, or is drunk at a higher percentage by the residents than, say, mocha or by tea. Now that happens in just about every city. Okay, so the exception, I've got an arrow here, which is Adelaide. Okay, so it's actually, so mocha is actually marginally higher than coffee and then tea. And the other thing you can see here is you can see tea is the lowest in every city. So the general trends that I came up with are all cities drink coffee, mocha, tea in that order, except for Adelaide, which we've got there. Okay, Adelaide's residents prefer mocha by a slight margin. That should be than, not then, so I do apologise about that. That should be than. Okay, so than coffee, and lastly tea. Okay, and as I said before, tea is the least demanded drink in all the cities. Okay, so we'll go to the next slide and I'll give you what I wrote. And again, there's many ways of writing it, but this is what I came up with. Okay, so overall, the graph shows that a vast majority of residents in the 5 Australian cities, except for Adelaide, prefer coffee over the other 2 beverages. The second favourite drink is mocha, and then followed by tea. As already mentioned, in Adelaide, the trend is slightly different, with mocha being the most desired drink, followed by coffee and then tea. Okay, so I think that does the job. So that gives us a good overall. Okay, so we go on to the next bit. So now we want to write the details. Okay, so this is where we want to add the numbers. We want to talk about trends. Okay, so again, so let's look at how we're going to combine the variables together. Okay, so when I look at this, I can't see any other way of doing it at this present point in time, except for grouping, talking about coffee, talking then about mocha, and then about tea. Okay, that's the only way I can think of doing it, because you can't really group the cities together in any way that I can see straight in my head. So normally you'd be able to group certain cities that are going up, some are going down. But in this case, as it's static, this is the way I've come up with. Okay, so basically what we want to do is think how you can logically group the data to make logical paragraphs. So you should write 2 or 3 paragraphs here. So I think in this example, we can group by the 3 types of drinks and use ranges and specific percentages. Okay, so paragraph 1, I'm going to talk about coffee. Paragraph 2, going to talk about mocha. And then in paragraph 3, going to talk about tea. Again, there could be other ways of doing this. However, as long as it's logical and it's easy to follow, I don't think it matters too much. Okay, so this is what I came up with coffee. And again, the words that I've used that may be of interest, which I may just highlight for you. So for example, I have used the word range. Okay, so the range. So I think that's a good word, because if you can see here, I might just rub out the other drawing on here. You can see that the range of coffee virtually sits around this 60, okay, except for these 2 lines here. Okay, so again, that's another way you could have written it, as in the exceptions from approximately 60% average. However, I've sort of mentioned them all, but to make a shorter version, you could have just mentioned the average. So for example, all cities consume, all city residents consume coffee at roughly about 60%. However, there are a few outliers as well. Okay, so you could mention them. But however, this is what I've done. Okay, so coffee is the preferred choice in all cities except for 1, with a range from 63% to 48% of inhabitants preferring coffee. The highest data points are for Melbourne and Hobart. Okay, so you can see Melbourne here. Okay, and you can see Adelaide over here. Okay, at about 6. Okay, so subsequently, these are the highest data points of the data series. And what I mean by that, they're the highest points in all the graph. Okay, so I've just mentioned that. Okay, these are followed by Sydney at about 60%, and finally Brisbane and Adelaide with about 53% and 48% respectively. Okay, so that's coffee. Now we'll go on to Mocha. Okay, so I'll just get rid of these lines again. Okay, so here we go, just get rid of these. Okay, so again, Mocha, the second preferred hot milk drink is Mocha with a range of about 54% to 46%. The highest consumption takes place in Brisbane. Okay, so Brisbane is over here, it's the highest point. Okay, so you can see Brisbane is over here. And Hobart at about 52% to 54% respectively. Oh, sorry, I missed that. So the highest point takes place in Brisbane and Hobart at about 52% to 54% respectively. Whilst the lower consumption takes place in Sydney and Melbourne, averaging about 47%. And lastly, Adelaide in the middle of the range at circa 50%. Another word for just saying approximately or about. Okay. So now we're just going to talk about tea, which again I've mentioned is the lowest consumption in all cities. Okay, so the least wanted beverage is tea in all cities, and it has an overall range of 42% to 32%. So again, if you just sort of take the range, top and bottom. In more detail, Sydney and Melbourne have the highest data points, averaging about 43%, while Brisbane and Adelaide have the lowest data points, averaging about 32%. Lastly, Hobart falls in the middle of the range at about 38%. Okay, so I think I used a different word for middle in the last one. So we've used a different word here. So I've got middle, I actually have used middle and middle. So maybe I should use a different word there. Okay. And this is the final essay or report. And overall, I think it's well structured. I think it's well written. Again, nothing is ever perfect, so I'm sure it can be fixed up in some ways, but overall, I think that would be a good result on the exam. Okay, well, thank you. I'm Sean, and I hope you enjoyed our conversation today. Thank you.